In 2018, a game called Fortnite made $5.4 billion in a single year. Not from selling the game itself, the game was free. They made it from selling digital outfits and emotes inside a video game that teenagers couldn't stop playing. That same year, a mother in the UK discovered her 11-year-old son had spent over £3,000 on in-game purchases without her knowledge. The credit card was saved in the system. The purchases felt invisible. One click, then another, then another. By the time she noticed, the damage was done. But what I'm about to show you reveals this isn't just about kids spending pocket money on cosmetics. It's a calculated psychological extraction system built on mechanics borrowed directly from casinos, refined by behavioral scientists, and scaled to over 3 billion mobile devices worldwide. By the end of this, you'll understand why a former employee at one of the largest mobile game publishers compared his job to designing a slow-drip financial drain disguised as entertainment. The mobile gaming industry generated over $100 billion in 2023 alone. That's more than the film and music industries combined. And the part that should make you uncomfortable, 97% of mobile games are free to download. So where is all that money actually coming from? The answer lies in a business model that most players don't fully understand until it's too late. A model that transforms entertainment into extraction and children into some of the most profitable customers on Earth. At the 40-minute mark, I'll show you internal documents leaked from a major publisher that reveal exactly how these companies calculate the lifetime value of a player and how they identify which personality types are most likely to spend thousands without realizing it. Just when you think you understand how deep this goes, wait until you see what happened when Belgium and the Netherlands tried to regulate this industry as gambling. This isn't a story about technology. It's a story about money, manipulation, and a regulatory system that arrived a decade too late. Here's what we're going to cover: how free-to-play became a trillion-dollar trap, the casino mechanics hidden inside children's games, the leaked documents showing how companies categorize players as whales and target addictive personalities, and what happened when governments finally tried to fight back. Stay until the end, because the industry's response to regulation reveals exactly why this problem isn't going away. So back to the beginning, mobile gaming didn't start as a predatory industry. In fact, for the first few years, it looked almost innocent. When the iPhone launched in 2007, the App Store followed a year later in 2008. Early mobile games were simple, paid up front, and straightforward. You paid $1, maybe $3, and you owned the game. Angry Birds, Fruit Ninja, Doodle Jump. These were products, not services. You bought them once, you played them forever. But that model had a problem. From a business perspective, it capped revenue. Once someone bought your game, that transaction ended. There was no recurring income, no way to extract more value from a player who loved your game and played it for hundreds of hours. Investors didn't like that. They wanted predictable, scalable, recurring revenue. They wanted subscriptions. They wanted something that looked like software as a service, but felt like a game. The shift began quietly around 2012. A handful of developers started experimenting with a new model, free-to-play. The game cost nothing to download, but inside there were optional purchases. At first, these were framed as shortcuts or cosmetic items. Players didn't have to buy anything to enjoy the game, but the psychology was already shifting. The barrier to entry disappeared. Millions of people downloaded games they never would have paid for. And once they were inside, a small percentage started spending. Not $1, not $5. Some spent hundreds, some spent thousands. That's when the industry realized something crucial. They didn't need everyone to pay. They just needed a tiny fraction of users to pay enormous amounts. In industry terms, these players are called whales. It's a term borrowed directly from casinos. In gambling, a whale is a high roller who spends vast sums of money. In mobile gaming, a whale is a player who might spend $50 a week or $500 a month, often without fully realizing how much they've spent over time. A 2014 study found that in free-to-play games, roughly 50% of revenue came from just 0.15% of players. Let that sink in. A tiny fraction of users were funding the entire ecosystem, and the games were designed accordingly. Developers stopped designing for the average player. They started designing for the whale. Every feature, every event, every notification, every reward structure was optimized to identify and extract maximum value from that small group. But understanding who the whales are is only half the picture. What comes next reveals exactly how developers hook them in the first place, using mechanics that weren't invented by game designers at all. They were borrowed from decades of addiction research. To understand how that extraction works, you need to understand the mechanics. And those mechanics were not invented by game designers. They were borrowed, refined, and weaponized from decades of research into behavioral psychology and gambling addiction. What's actually inside these games? On the surface, they look like entertainment, bright colors, cheerful music, engaging characters. But beneath that surface, there's a framework built on variable reward schedules, loss aversion, social pressure, and artificial scarcity. These aren't accidents, they're design choices backed by research. One of the most common mechanics is the loot box. It's a virtual container that you open to receive a random reward. You might get something common and useless, or you might get something rare and powerful. You don't know until you open it. The outcome is randomized. Sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same mechanic as a slot machine. You pull the lever, the reels spin, and you don't know what you'll get. That randomness is what makes it addictive. Psychologists call this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. It's one of the most effective ways to condition behavior. Rats in labs will press a lever thousands of times if there's a chance of a reward, even if the reward is rare. Humans do the same thing. Loot boxes are everywhere. They're in sports games, fantasy games, battle games, card games. Sometimes they're called packs, crates, chests, or eggs. The name changes, but the mechanic stays the same. What makes this so dangerous? Children don't understand the odds. Even adults struggle. Games rarely disclose the actual probability of getting a rare item, and even when they do, the numbers are buried in menus or phrased in ways that obscure the truth. A 0.5% chance sounds small, but to a 12-year-old it feels like it could happen. And when it doesn't, the response isn't to stop, it's to try again. Then there's the daily login reward. You open the game and you get a prize just for showing up. Day 1, a small reward. Day 2, slightly better. Day 7, something special. Miss a day and the streak resets. This mechanic doesn't ask for money directly, but it does something just as valuable. It builds a habit. It trains you to open the game every single day. And once that habit is formed, the game can introduce limited-time events, flash sales, and time-sensitive offers. You're already checking in daily. Now there's something new to buy, and it's only available for the next 6 hours. That brings us to FOMO, fear of missing out. It's one of the most powerful psychological triggers in modern game design. Limited-time characters, seasonal events, exclusive skins. The message is always the same. If you don't act now, you'll lose your chance forever. This creates urgency. It bypasses rational decision-making. You're not buying because you want it. You're buying because you're afraid of regret. Another layer, energy systems. Many mobile games limit how much you can play at once. You get a certain amount of energy, and each action consumes some. When it runs out, you wait. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe 6 hours, or you can pay to refill it instantly. This mechanic does two things. First, it increases engagement frequency. Players return multiple times a day instead of playing once for an hour. Second, it creates frustration at a very specific moment, right when the player is most engaged. And then it offers a solution. Pay a small amount, keep playing. It feels reasonable in the moment. It's only $1, but those dollars add up. Social mechanics make it worse. Many games let you join clans, guilds, or teams. You're no longer playing alone. You're part of a group, and that group has goals. If you don't contribute, you let your teammates down. Suddenly, spending money isn't just about you, it's about not disappointing others. That's social pressure embedded in code. And then there are the currencies. Most free-to-play games don't let you buy items directly with real money. Instead, you buy a virtual currency: gems, coins, credits, gold. This creates psychological distance. You're not spending $5 on a sword, you're spending 500 gems. It doesn't feel the same. It obscures the true cost. It also allows developers to price items in ways that never align with currency pack sizes. You need 880 gems for an item, but the packs sell 500 or 1200. You always have leftover currency, creating a sunk cost. You've already spent money, so you might as well spend more to use what you have. All of these systems work together. They're layered, interconnected, and constantly refined using real-time data. Developers can see exactly when players stop engaging, when they're most likely to spend, and which offers convert best. This isn't guesswork, it's a science. And the scientists aren't game designers. They're monetization specialists, data analysts, and behavioral economists. What makes this truly disturbing? Much of this research was pioneered in the gambling industry, and many of the people building these systems previously worked in casinos. In 2018, a man named Torolf Jernström gave a presentation at a game developers conference. He worked for a company called TribeFlame, which helped mobile game studios optimize their monetization. During his talk, he explained how developers could use psychology to increase spending. He discussed loss aversion, anchoring, and decoy pricing. He explained how to use data to identify vulnerable players, how to time offers to maximize conversion, and how to frame purchases so they felt smaller than they were. The presentation was recorded and uploaded online. The backlash was immediate. People were horrified, not because he was lying, but because he was telling the truth. He was saying out loud what the entire industry had been doing quietly for years. The talk was later made private, but transcripts and clips still circulate. It remains one of the clearest windows into how the industry thinks. Not about fun, not about players, about extraction. That same year, internal documents from a major publisher leaked. They revealed spreadsheets that calculated the lifetime value of players based on their spending habits in the first 72 hours. Players were segmented into tiers: minnows, dolphins, and whales. Each tier received different offers, different difficulty curves, and different incentives. The goal wasn't to create a fair experience. It was to identify who would pay and then design the game around them. These documents also showed something else. The average whale wasn't a wealthy adult with disposable income. In many cases, they were teenagers, young adults, and people with compulsive spending behaviors. Some were gambling addicts who had switched from casinos to mobile games because the games were more accessible and less stigmatized. One internal memo noted that players with addictive tendencies represented a disproportionate share of revenue and should be considered a priority demographic. Let that sink in. The people most vulnerable to exploitation weren't being protected. They were being targeted. And the children? They were the easiest to hook. Bright colors, cartoon characters, simple mechanics. Games marketed to kids use the exact same systems as games marketed to adults. The only difference was the aesthetic. A 2019 study found that children as young as 8 were opening loot boxes in games, often without understanding that real money was involved. Many didn't realize that their parents' credit cards were linked to their accounts. They just saw a button that said "Open" and clicked it. By 2020, the mobile gaming industry was bringing in over $80 billion a year. By 2023, that number crossed $100 billion. The growth was relentless, and almost none of it came from selling games. It came from selling access, chances, and dopamine hits. It came from building systems that felt like games but functioned like casinos. And unlike casinos, these systems were unregulated, accessible to children, and embedded in devices that people carried everywhere. But the leaked documents and industry presentations only reveal how the system was built. What happened next shows just how hard it is to tear it down. Because when governments finally tried to regulate this industry, the response exposed something even more troubling. Belgium was the first. In 2018, the Belgian Gaming Commission investigated several popular games, including FIFA, Overwatch, and Counter-Strike. Their conclusion was clear. Loot boxes constituted gambling under Belgian law. They involved payment, randomization, and the possibility of winning something of value. The commission ordered the games to remove loot boxes or face criminal charges. Publishers had a choice: comply or leave the market. EA, the publisher of FIFA, initially resisted. They argued that loot boxes were surprise mechanics and compared them to Kinder eggs. The comparison didn't land well. During a UK parliamentary hearing, an EA executive was asked directly if they considered loot boxes to be gambling. The executive said no. The committee wasn't convinced, neither was the public. Eventually, EA and other publishers removed loot boxes from games sold in Belgium, but they didn't remove the games, they just altered the monetization. Instead of randomized loot boxes, they sold items directly at inflated prices. The revenue model adapted, the exploitation continued. The Netherlands followed Belgium's lead. Their gaming authority also classified loot boxes as illegal gambling. Publishers were fined and ordered to comply. Some games were removed from Dutch app stores entirely. The problem: enforcement was limited to 2 small countries. The rest of the world continued as usual. And even in Belgium and the Netherlands, enforcement was inconsistent. Mobile games, especially those from overseas publishers, were harder to regulate. Many simply ignored the rulings and continued operating. In the United States, the response was slower. In 2019, Senator Josh Hawley introduced a bill that would ban loot boxes and pay-to-win mechanics in games played by minors. The bill went nowhere. The gaming industry spent millions on lobbying. They argued that loot boxes weren't gambling, that parents were responsible for monitoring their children, and that regulation would stifle innovation. The Entertainment Software Association, the industry's lobbying group, framed the issue as a matter of creative freedom. The UK held inquiries. Australia launched investigations. China implemented rules requiring games to disclose loot box odds. Japan already had consumer protection laws that limited certain types of gacha mechanics. But none of these actions stopped the industry from growing because the model was too profitable and the infrastructure was already global. By 2023, most major publishers had refined their approach. They used different terms, different visuals, and different legal structures depending on the region. In countries with stricter regulations, they adjusted the monetization without changing the core mechanics. In countries with no regulations, they pushed harder. The same game could have 3 different monetization models depending on where you lived. And the players? Most still didn't realize what was happening. They just knew the games were free, they knew their friends were playing, and they knew that if they wanted to keep up, they'd need to spend a little, just a little, over and over. But the human cost was starting to show. In 2020, a 16-year-old in South Korea was found dead in his room. He had been playing a mobile game for 72 hours straight. The game had an event that required constant participation to earn a rare character. He didn't want to miss it. In the UK, a mother testified before Parliament that her son had stolen her credit card and spent over £2,000 on a game called FIFA. He was 14. He didn't understand how much money it was. He just wanted the players his friends had. In the United States, support groups began forming online for people who had spent tens of thousands of dollars on mobile games. They described the same pattern. It started small, it felt harmless, and then it spiraled. They couldn't stop. The games were designed so they couldn't stop. One former player described it like this: "I would tell myself it's just $10, but I was saying that every day. I didn't add it up. I didn't want to. When I finally checked my bank statements, I'd spent over $15,000 in 2 years on a game I don't even enjoy anymore. I just felt like I had to keep going or everything I'd already spent would be wasted." That's sunk cost fallacy, engineered into gameplay. The more you invest, the harder it is to walk away. And the game knows it. Every login, every purchase, every interaction is tracked. The algorithms adjust. If you're slowing down, you might get a special offer. If you're spending, the difficulty might increase to make you spend more. If you're about to quit, you might receive a generous reward to pull you back in. It's not random. It's calculated. Psychologists started sounding alarms. Dr. Mark Griffiths, a professor of behavioral addiction, published research showing that loot boxes met every criterion for gambling. Dr. Daniel King, an expert in gaming addiction, testified before the Australian government that these mechanics were deliberately designed to exploit compulsive behaviors. Studies from the UK, Sweden, and New Zealand found correlations between loot box spending and problem gambling. The evidence was mounting, but the industry continued to deny it. In 2021, a whistleblower from a major mobile publisher spoke anonymously to a gaming news site. They described the internal culture. "We didn't call them players, we called them payers. Everything was about conversion rates and lifetime value. If a feature didn't increase spending, it was cut. If a player complained, we checked their spending history. If they were a whale, we responded. If they weren't, we ignored them." The interview was corroborated by others who had worked in similar roles. The same year, Apple and Google, who controlled the two major mobile app stores, faced pressure to take action. Apple introduced a rule requiring developers to disclose the odds of loot boxes. Google followed, but disclosure didn't stop the problem. Players could see the odds, but they still pulled the lever. Knowing you have a 0.3% chance of getting what you want doesn't make it less addictive. It sometimes makes it worse. It becomes a challenge, a gamble worth taking, and children still had access. App stores had age ratings, but they were rarely enforced. A game rated for ages 12 and up could contain the exact same mechanics as a casino slot machine. The rating didn't reflect the monetization. It only reflected content like violence or language. A cartoon game with no blood could still drain a child's savings through loot boxes, and the rating would say it was appropriate for kids. Parents were often blindsided. The games looked innocent. They were free. They were colorful. They were social. By the time parents realized money was involved, the damage was done, and getting refunds was nearly impossible. The terms of service, which almost no one read, stated that all purchases were final. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a side effect. It was the business model. So where does this leave us? Right now, in 2025, the mobile gaming industry is bigger than ever. New games launch every week. Old games continue to rake in billions. The mechanics have been refined even further. Artificial intelligence is now being used to personalize offers in real time. Machine learning models predict which players are about to quit and intervene with targeted discounts or rewards. The system is getting smarter. The extraction is getting more efficient. But something else is happening too. Resistance is building. More parents are speaking out. More players are walking away. More researchers are publishing evidence. More politicians are paying attention. In some regions, the pressure is starting to work. The European Union is considering broader regulations that would classify many of these mechanics as gambling. Australia is reviewing its consumer protection laws. The UK's parliament has called for a ban on loot boxes in games accessible to children. But progress is slow. The industry is powerful. It funds lobbying efforts, sponsors research that contradicts independent studies, and frames any criticism as an attack on creativity or freedom. They argue that players have a choice, that it's all optional, that no one is forced to spend. Technically, they're right. No one is forced. But when a system is deliberately designed to exploit psychological vulnerabilities, to target children, and to maximize spending from people who are least able to afford it, the word choice starts to feel hollow. The truth is this: mobile games aren't digital casinos by accident. They're digital casinos by design. The mechanics are borrowed from gambling. The revenue models are borrowed from gambling. The targeting strategies are borrowed from gambling. The only difference is the label. We call one entertainment and the other addiction, but the line between them has all but disappeared. If you're a parent, check your child's device. Look at what games they're playing. Check if your payment method is saved. Talk to them about what in-app purchases actually mean. If you're a player, look at your own spending. Add it up. Be honest with yourself about whether you're playing for fun or because you feel like you have to. And if you're a developer, ask yourself what you're building. Ask if the mechanics you're implementing are there to make the game better or just to make the spending easier. The mobile gaming industry generated over $100 billion last year. That money came from somewhere. It came from people who thought they were just playing a game. It came from kids who didn't understand what they were clicking. It came from adults who got hooked and couldn't stop. And it came from a system designed to keep you paying long after the fun has stopped. This isn't entertainment, it's extraction. Watch the next major mobile game release over the next 12 months. Count the mechanics I've described. Check the age rating. Then check how much a child could spend before hitting any limit. Every answer will either prove this analysis wrong or confirm that the industry learned nothing and changed nothing.